recently declassified US Navy documents reveal some of the strangest encounters ever reported. Encounters which some believe are proof of an otherworldly agenda. March the 1st, 1977, the USS Trepang, a nuclear attack submarine, is on maneuvers in the Arctic Ocean, 900 miles northeast of Iceland. Officer John Killicker peers into his periscope and is stunned by what he sees. Quickly reaching for a camera, the officer begins taking pictures through the periscope. He captures a strange object, making astonishing aerial maneuvers just above the water. Then, incredibly, it dives into the frigid ocean.
When I first saw these photographs, I was really intrigued because there is nothing like this that I've ever seen in any type of UFO or USO case. On the photographs, you actually see indicator marks that you would see through a periscope. So we can really kind of deduce they look legitimate.
They're extremely clear, and they do seem to show an immense triangular-shaped craft performing some pretty spectacular maneuvers.
UFO researchers are confident the craft is not man-made.
It's almost like they're testing us, just to see what we would do. Maybe just see if we're hostile, see if we're going to fire upon them. We're being watched, and we've always been watched. I don't think that this is anything new. I believe that's a true UFO. An extraterrestrial craft. So if this submarine was by itself, and this UFO came out of the water and just kind of displayed its technology, maybe it was a diversion. This would be one kind of tactic maybe they were using to keep the military away from an underwater base they have under the ice.
UFO investigators say encounters like these with the US Navy provide some of the most convincing evidence that extraterrestrial spacecraft are hiding in the deepest and most remote areas of our oceans.
USOs are essentially underwater UFOs, and it stands for Unidentified Submersible Object. These unknown objects have a long history of interacting with militaries from around the world. There have been some very interesting cases of objects being seen coming out of the water, going into large bodies of water, being tracked, going at incredibly rapid speeds in the deep oceans. And it doesn't really have a conventional explanation.
This was hugely unnerving for these highly trained military personnel, and it was quite unlike anything they'd ever seen or experienced before. One can only speculate about the intent of these USOs. Was this a hostile act of some sort, or were they just fleeing detection?
They've constructed bases deep below the surface.
The oceans are about as remote a place as you can get on this planet. If you want to conduct yourself on a world secretly without a lot of interference, it's actually ideal.
We know less about the deep ocean than we do about the surface of the Moon or Mars. It's a complete mystery.
Logically, it makes complete sense to actually hide stuff underwater because it would be very hard for a hostile government to actually find an alien base of some kind under the water. You've got all that protection, the mud, the silt, keeps any visual recognition from happening, so it really makes a lot of sense.
USOs are operating from bases deep below the sea.
An underwater base for USOs. When you look at the image, it does appear there's a structure to this thing. It certainly doesn't look like anything that was formed naturally in the ocean. This looks as if it has been built by someone.
I think the depths of the oceans is one of the best places to hide. If you're a non-human intelligence here on Earth wanting to do some kind of operation, what better place than the depths of the ocean?
Lying on the seabed in over 600 meters of water and measuring 3 miles in length, the evidence suggests the West Coast underwater structure could actually be an alien base for USOs to monitor the government's most top-secret ballistic missile tests.
Could it be that USOs are hiding in the oceans, monitoring our most destructive weapons and interfering when necessary?
If aliens are hiding beneath our seas and have been for centuries, some investigators question why they're increasingly allowing themselves to be seen by humanity.
The more you come to the conclusion that there's an escalation here, there's a sort of building up in intensity, frequency of these incidents, and indeed some of them are deadly, then it's a matter not just of national security, but of global security. We shouldn't just assume they're here to make friends.
If UFOs and USOs are inhabiting our skies and our oceans, do they pose a threat to our security? And why are world governments keeping us in the dark?
50 years ago, February the 10th, 1951, I was flying from Keflavik, Iceland to Argentia, Newfoundland. It was at night, it was dark. About 300 miles outside of Argentia, I saw a glow on the water, like approaching the city at night. As we approached this glow, it turned to a monstrous circle of white lights on the water. We watched this for a while. The lights went out. There was nothing on the water. Next thing we saw was a yellow halo, small, much smaller than whatever it was launched from. And that was 15 miles away, up to our altitude. Because of the trajectory, I disengaged the autopilot, shoved the nose over, tried to go under this thing. At that time, I heard a noise underneath. I thought maybe it hit us. It was actually some of the crew members ducking, and they collided, and a couple of them were injured. Then it appeared over to the right and moved down slowly and flew with us. It was still not at our altitude, but we could see the shape of it. It had a dome. We could see the coronal discharge. I went back in, let the other pilot, Al Jones, take my seat to see what the passenger's reaction was. Came back to the cockpit, told him not to report anything simply because what the psychiatrist had said to me. Maybe they would lock us up. So basically, the instruments in the cockpit, we had 4 or 5 failures. In the area of magnetic compass, the electromagnetic effect, in the area of directional aligners, and this type of thing. The craft was tracked by radar in excess of 1,800 miles out. Never did get to our altitude. We had 31 passengers, plus the psychiatrist and the crew members. They all cited this at different areas. When we landed at Argentia, Newfoundland, we were interrogated by the Air Force, next interrogation, Captain Paulson. When we landed at the Naval Air Test Center here at Pawtucket River, we were required by Navy intelligence to make out individual reports. Out of the National Archives, I have the 18-page official Navy and Air Force report. I've made up a report to straighten out all the truth. There's a stack of books out there that have written all of this up. So the truth is here.